Recording stopped.
They said
It was already fixed. And no one, you don't have anybody for that. Who just left?
That would remind us of that.
Well, that's what I'm. Okay. So you look for it. I try to see my phone.
Let's take our position. We'll get going. We're running a little late.
I'll reply and
Okay.
we'll figure it out.
Typically don't rent early December, so early December.
Make sure we're on Zoom, then we'll get going. A few people I know are not attending. I think Gus is still gonna show up. Jennifer's not available. Sandy got exposed. He's gonna stay home. Play it safe.
These for us.
One of those. Anybody else need anything? You got everything?
That just lose it.
I'd offer to help, but I don't have a lot of fidelity.
I use Zoom all the time for my office.
Use an iPhone.
It's not as user-friendly as they claim it is.
No.
Oh, on that, on the screen. Yeah, because it's not gonna on the screen. You don't have to see. I mean, yeah, but they should, they don't see that.
I don't think I do, but you know, this is such a busy time.
It's like we've been doing this now for how long? The technology part, it is always gonna be, there's always gonna be issues.
It doesn't seem to like to play nice at times.
Right. And it can be somebody for whom it's worked forever and now it doesn't.
You need to buy a more expensive system. So.
Well.
This thing cost the township a pretty penny. Yeah, close to 40 grand.
I get someone from my office to look at one. That's great, because that means it supports it for all our stars that don't pay anything.
If we have questions, we'll stop and do audience participation online. Technical difficulties. We're playing a football game, you keep going, so. Even the Chiefs not. All right, I'm gonna call the meeting to order. We barely got going, but we do. Do roll call. Gus, on the way. Hathaway, Archie, Holland, Musser's not here, Sloan, Stites is here, Smith.
Here.
Tankenau not here. We got audience participation in the room. Well, if there's anybody on Zoom, once we get them in, we'll stop and have any audience participation there. Any questions? I do want to introduce Ryan in the back. Ryan owns some buildings down the street. He's in the new construction down on Baker Road, some warehouses. EWF Solutions. He's also on the fire planning, I think, committee. And he's here trying out for the DDA board. And I'll send you his resume after the meeting. Thanks for coming. We got a gentleman here from the planning committee. So he's kind of the liaison for the planning committee. If we've got any questions for him. He's new and said he's the planning connection, so he came to the meeting, which is nice.
I didn't catch, what's your name?
Jeff Human, sorry. Jeff Human.
Jeff. All right, and I'll use Jennifer in a little while here. No audience participation in the room. We'll move on. Guests, Jennifer Olmstead's here from Spark. I think most of us now in the room are very familiar with Spark. again, we donate or give or participate with Spark in the amount of $5,000 every year to help them facilitate projects and grants and other things within the Scio Township. So with that, I'll introduce Jennifer, give us a little update on what Spark's doing for the Scio DDA area.
Okay, well, the last time I did an official presentation was 2018, but it looks like, no, isn't that crazy? It looks like a lot of the same people are in the room, and the new people, Linda Smith, I know really well, and then of course, well, Hathaway wasn't here when I did the presentation, so we'll be connecting later. But I just wanted to come and say hello, and if you'd like me to come more often, I'm happy to do that. I always say I spent a lot of time in Scio Township with all the activities that my kids do. So I'm here all season long, so always happy to stop by and say hello. But so we provide, economic development is a team sport, it's a public-private partnership. Spark is the nonprofit entity for the Ann Arbor region to help economic development. My side of the team, we have a large focus that most people know about, our entrepreneurship team, and we have an incubator in downtown Ann Arbor and one in downtown Ypsi. And my team is business development. So we work with attracting companies to the area and then also working with our existing businesses. And what I like to say is a lot of times in the news, you get the flashy news thing like KLA, the semiconductor company is, coming and creating $100 million in investment. That's every couple of years. Most of our stuff, 80% comes from our existing businesses. And I think MIHQ is a great example of we feed a lot of small companies into MIHQ. Part of my job is to respond to, we because of Google AdWords, we're funded through Google. Our marketing team spends a lot of money to make sure if you're looking to come to Ann Arbor, you find us. And so I, every week get these random emails of hey, who do I call? And so, you'll have a company that wants to come in and doesn't want to do a 5-year lease, doesn't want to do a 3-year lease, and they're looking for space. And one of the most flexible spaces in this whole county, no offense, Jeff, but it is, someone who can do a 6-month lease, a 12-month lease. And I've had the benefit now that I've been at Spark for 7 years, where those onesie-twosies have turned into 10s and 20s and 100. I mean, the first major project I worked in Scio Township was helping Vocker come to MIHQ, and then they built a $50 million facility in Pittsfield Township. And that's just because I picked up the phone. I couldn't believe it. Someone from Germany wanted a tour of lab space the next day. And it was great to, work on that project. So we want to be your help. I've heard recently there's been some discussion on IFTs. I've talked to Linda and Will, I sent him some stuff on Friday. However, we can help with that. So actually that's one of the things that we do for most of our communities in Washtenaw County.
What's the acronym stand for?
Thank you, sorry. It's Industrial Facilities Tax Abatement. So that's a one common tool that a lot of our municipalities used to attract development in the area. And so we have I can give a presentation. I share with Will, and I know I tell Bobby also can just cut me off when you need me to stop talking. Right. But sort of best practices. I've done IFTs in Ypsi Township, Pittsfield, Chelsea, and Dexter. So most, except for the city of Ann Arbor, they've only done a couple. Most of all of our other communities use that as a tool in their toolbox. So basically our role is to be the person between the company and the public sector, to help you facilitate economic development. I'm going to stop there.
Well, again,
ask any questions.
Where does the funding come from for it? Is it
the funding
reduction in the future
No,
taxes?
It is a 50% tax abatement on future taxes. So and you have to be an industrial, you have to qualify. So retail doesn't get it, warehousing doesn't get it. You have to be sort of technology advanced manufacturing. And so I know I'll sort of quote what, because we just had a meeting in Dexter a couple months ago where there's a small business owner who says like, I always like to vote no on this because, you know, I'm a small business in retail and I don't get this, but I always vote yes because this company, this investment wouldn't occur and I'd rather have 50% than zero. So, you know, it all depends on community, but if you're going to give out an IFT, and Scio Township actually has a long history of doing it, the key though is I can't Google that and find that on your website. I can go to the state of Michigan. You need to have your policy out there. It needs to be transparent. It should be similar to all the other communities. So we have, this is before my time at Spark, but so I've been at Spark since 2015. We actually, the best practices that I shared with Will is something that we did over 5 years ago to help our communities come up with standard, you know, policy and a point system. So when a company comes in, you can say, you know, this is, if you follow these guidelines and we have a, you know, point system and you tie it to jobs and investment, to new jobs and investment, you know, this is what you'll qualify for. I mean, you know, we all know this, the biggest thing is you want to be transparent. You want, you know, you want to be fair and you want to take the risks away from people who want to, you know, come in your, you know, community. And when you have properties that have been sitting vacant for a while, you know, there's a reason, you know, they're vacant. In the last, give you some case studies. Maybe you want to hear what other communities are doing.
I'll forward out to them the email you sent because we have been issuing Scio tax abatements, industrial tax since 1977. So we've done it a lot, you know, in the past. I don't think we've done it recently that much, but it is something that Scio's done a lot.
Jay. Question, of the companies that have incubated at MIHQ, how many were retained in Scio Township after they kind of expire out there? And how many if
a lot. I don't have all the stats, but I guess what I'll say to you, and I was thinking about that, is we're regional, right? So we have to think like you lose one, you gain one kind of thing. So you like, and you can see it if I list the companies out. You can't quote me on a percentage, but yes, people move sort of, you know, back and forth. That's one reason why you want to be the same as all of your sort of other communities. But I can find some of that out because I was, it's hard to say, but I mean, just Nexient would be a good example. They were in Pittsfield and then they moved to Scio Township and now they might move to the city of Ann Arbor. You know what I mean? But it helps everyone in terms of your tax base, in terms of like employees, you know what I mean? Helping create jobs. So I feel like that's really important to say that we have a big focus that people, a lot of times they're like, we want to be in Washtenaw County. And then you tell them, I love this when I had, when Vacher had their grand opening at MIHQ, they're like, we want to invite the mayor of Ann Arbor to our grand. I'm like, that's great. He might come, but you know, you're not in the state of Ann Arbor. They didn't know that. So, I mean, what I always like to tell our municipalities is that people have an Ann Arbor address and they don't know what, you know, township they're in, but they just know, and they have to, and that's a role that we play to be sort of that broker, to be like, here's how we can help you understand the landscape. So I just always want to remind municipalities that a company, a lot of times they don't know if they're in Pittsfield, Scio, or Ann Arbor. They usually know when they're in the city of Ann Arbor because they pay higher taxes, but they don't always know that.
Jennifer, do you see advantages and disadvantages that the different municipalities around here, the townships primarily, have in attracting business? So do they gravitate to Pittsfield Township because of something? Do they gravitate here because of something? Or is it facilities driven, you know, the location?
I would say mostly facilities driven, but there's a lot of anecdotal, you know, one-offs right there. You know, I mean, I've had companies say, we're not going there, they're not business friendly, and then they go there because that's the only property that they can find. So it really is what I've seen. The name of the game, we always say, you don't have a site, you don't have a project. You know, like you can see that through the state of Michigan with all this thing going on in the battery space or EV. I mean, or a couple months ago, there was, big articles about, attracting mega projects. Well, the state, we didn't have the sites. People could say it was about the incentives, but it was really about like, if you don't have the site, but sure, depending on who you talk to, you could get a different answer from people, but I do think it's facilities driven.
Any projects you're working on currently in Scio?
Well, I had an R&D battery company come here, who found us through the Michigan Economic Development Corporation. They wanted to be close to U of M, and this is an example of someone that aspires to grow very fast, but for the first year, they want a flexible lease. And it was good timing that I showed them, we have a rule of 3, like I'm agnostic to anywhere you are as long as it's Washtenaw County. If you're gonna go to Detroit, I'll help you, but then I'll just pass you over to the Detroit Regional Partnership. Because we do have companies that come here and you're like, you're not really a fit for Washtenaw. But Empower Green Tech is an R&D battery company that just came into MIHQ. Nexient, during COVID, right before COVID, they bought the old DT building. And then Navitas, which is in the battery space too, they were in Pittsfield, and I would say site-driven, moved to Scio Township because they couldn't find a space. So we're like, we try to call on, I've called on like 50 companies over the last 3 years. It's not just like specific individual meetings, but we do e-newsletters and try to touch people in lots of different ways. And homes now, like it's easy to like grab coffee in Scio Township because I'm like, hey, do you want to come to this new campus? And people don't know about that. But like we've touched now. Here's an example: New Eagle. They moved to Pittsfield, but then they vacated their space, and Thor Labs expanded. You know what I mean? So it's just a story of moving pieces. But so, we've worked with New Eagle, Nexient, Navitas, Heinz, Forever Labs, we'll work with anybody. And I do work with retail and pass them off to someone that can help them more, but it's a small community and everybody's related to everybody. So if a coffee shop wants to come in, I'm like, that's not what I really know about. I'm really focused on advanced manufacturing technology, but they're all related. So I'll like say, here's who you need to talk to.
You think they were looking for more vacant land, or they're looking for redevelopment of buildings, or all of it? All of
You're seeing, because of the high cost of construction, people switching over to doing rehab, but then you'll have, here's a good example, the dental office right up here on Liberty and Wagner, the new building. Before that property was developed, Ann Arbor T-shirt company wanted to buy it, right? And then they were like, wait, we don't want to spend that much money. And then they found a building in the city of Ann Arbor across from Kroger. But then, a dental office, they're like, oh, we don't care. It just depends on how you run your books. It was worth it for them to, build a new facility. But we are seeing trends that people are looking to rehab things and not do new construction, like Gestamp stamping companies in Chelsea. They got an IFT, this is probably 4 years ago, because it was the only building that had over a 30-foot height. And I remember our previous director of research had been the director of research for 20 years. I started at Spark in 2015, and she goes, Jennifer, when this building gets done, I'll know that we're out of 2008 recession. You know what I mean? And luckily it did right before she left. But there's just so many things that it's driven by. But but most of it is sort of site availability. But Jeff, what are you seeing?
You articulated really well. People, you need space, you need the right type of facility, and then you start to check the other boxes. So if you have it in 2 different municipalities, then you're going to compare other costs, utility costs, tax costs, all that kind of stuff. But you need the space first. And to Jay's question about anything other than MIHQ, or anything that's spun out of there and stuck. I would say that just MIHQ on Wagner there is phenomenal for this area. So, I mean, and to the extent that you're able to help populate that, I just think it's great.
That's why I spent a lot of time, because it's like, there's not that much other lab space in Washtenaw. And if you think about it, going forward, I'm more focused on R&D, because who are the people that have to be in the office? Office workers
Absolutely.
don't. So, our niche is sort of being the R&D sort of headquarters. So it's like, we always want to play our, like, you want to be near the University of Michigan, but put your R&D here. We have the talent. So definitely that is a focus that we're trying to really focus on this near term and the next year, just because they have to be in the office.
Do you see companies from outside Michigan contacting you more? Is it government entities like us or Scio or Pittsfield? Like who's
Like I said,
businesses
it's
directly?
80% of people that are sort of already here.
Right.
You know what I mean? I
Already
remember
contacting
like,
people.
but every once in a while, you gotta be ready, because you have like the KLA coming in, but there's a big, beautiful building on, State Street. And we worked really hard with the broker of the building and the owner to like, this is in Pittsfield, blanking out on the name of the building. We worked really hard and like, we wanted new, right? Like someone that wasn't in Ann Arbor. And then it was New Eagle. And we're like, well, we're great that they were able to expand here, because we don't want to lose them to Plymouth or, somewhere else. But you're like, oh, but then they created, they're creating a lot more jobs. So most of it is the people that are already in the market. But every 3 years, like we have like this rolling average of like, bloop, like then KLA comes and then Bach, you know what I mean? But we always have to be ready for that business attraction. Like we focus a lot on retention, but we're part of the Detroit Regional Partnership. All they do is business attraction. They're like, hunting. They're the hunters, right? They go to Silicon Valley and they try to get, companies to come to Michigan. That costs a ton of money that we don't have. And so we work with them. The good thing is Ann Arbor is a known entity, right? Like we're typically, when people come to us directly through all of our like Google AdWords and our website and stuff like that, is because they want to be in Ann Arbor. Only like half a dozen times if somebody said, hey, we're looking at Ann Arbor or Detroit. They're like, no, we want to be in Washtenaw County. And by the way, we want to be like 2 miles from U of M, or we want to do this. So
those modest vacancy rates are good, because it gives everybody a chance to kind of move up.
yeah, like that, exactly. Well, I mean, yes, so we
Otherwise,
definitely, they're not good, but like, again, you have to figure out it's going to be interesting to see people, like now we're seeing, and I think Scio is going to have to be careful. Like you have, people are like, oh, maybe we'll downsize and maybe we want to be in downtown Ann Arbor. We'll pay more money, but we're going to get less space. So, I mean, you definitely want to be like promoting your, amenities, or like how you're like your free parking, and you know what I mean? You have homes and other places where people, can go, but companies are definitely looking at that, about how they are going to get people back to the office.
Good. Any other questions? Sounds like we might have some, industrial tax abatements coming up, some possibilities. So I'm sure we'll be in touch soon. And I'll forward you all the projects that we have done the tax abatements on.
You can get it, and you can get it.
You got that, I don't know where to get that list from.
Oh, and I'll give you the link. I put it in the email to Will, but like, you can get it for it's actually one of the few not the few, but like the state of Michigan is very well done. Like you just click on, you're like, what's it been in Pittsfield? You could.
I thought you bought some software program.
No. It's public information. You can just pick your community, you pick your county, pick your community, and it'll give you an Excel spreadsheet that you can export. And I was talking to Linda, like, I think we need to give you like a regional view of like, here are all the IFTs that have happened in, Washtenaw County. Here's, again, I feel like it's a common tool that people are using. So you want to, you don't want to get to the box where they're like, okay, should I go here or here? Well,
So can
I'm
we
gonna get a
schedule that
50%
for
abatement, I'm gonna go there.
Schedule that for January or March or whenever we meet. Good.
Sure.
I know, we haven't seen Jennifer's.
I like to come in the
Before
summer
COVID,
too,
so
so then I can go
we
to
gotta
the
keep her
pool
around a little
afterwards.
Yeah, thank you. Any other questions? So, yeah, we'll follow up with that and follow up with you and
Sure.
appreciate you coming.
Okay. And Will, do you want to talk later? I can hang out in your other, I'll just office over there.
That's fine.
Okay.
I tried to put you on early so you didn't have.
Okay, yeah, what else you got going on? Do I want to stay?
That's fine. You're welcome. Anybody's welcome to stay.
Second Monday every other month, you're welcome.
I'll stay.
We got everybody online there, Will? Did you figure that out?
I think so.
We got any questions from the audience on Zoom? Any hands raised?
Well, that's the thing I'm having.
Audience participation?
Yeah, audience participation. I don't see any hands.
We're residents, not an audience.
Oh, yeah, residents, sorry about that. Audience residents. You just correcting me? You got a comment or question?
My hand is raised.
What is?
Oh, yes, here's a hand raised. Go ahead, Rob.
All right, go ahead.
I'm very curious about the information about the IFTs. What IFTs have been done in Scio Township in the last 5 years? When did they start? And what is the specific name of the companies they were done for?
I can send out a whole, why don't you put it in the notes?
Yeah, I'll put it on our.
And I can give it to you since,
website, the DDA
the
website.
beginning.
Jennifer sent me a list of them.
I don't think we've had any in the last 5 years.
You had one right when I actually started working at Spark. So Kaiser was the last one that you had in, I want to say 2015. But if you, Terumo, if you look, any big company in Scio has.
We'll put that list on there, Rob.
Great, thank you very much.
Any other question?
There's another hand raised, Jillian Curie.
Julian, go ahead.
Yeah, hi, good afternoon. Back in April, there was Optiflow had presented, they had their attorney and Administrator Rowley was there and he was presenting as well. There was an IFT that had come in front of the board and they denied it. And listening to this presentation, thinking in this, we need to have some type of checklist to make sure that anybody or any company that comes forward asking for one of these, that they fit a criteria. And I think I just heard, I'm sorry, I missed your name, but I think I heard something to that effect. So I'm not sure if the board has that. And it has been, from what I remember, Administrator Rowley said it had been years ago that the last IFT was approved. Does the township have a protocol, or is this something we need to work on before we?
We're working on it. This isn't a Q&A. You can just make an announcement and then we'll look into it. But
Yeah, well, I'll be on the board.
What's your last
so
name?
I'm gonna need
Are you a
to.
resident of Scio?
She is, she's coming on the board.
Oh.
Carrie, K-E-R.
Oh, it's Carrie.
Jillian Curie, yes. I will be a
I'm
trustee
sorry.
officially on November 20th.
I'm
so.
sorry, Julian, I didn't recognize you. We talked. Yeah, I know, okay, we got you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you for serving. Any other questions, comments?
I don't see any other hands raised.
I just heard Julian, I didn't hear full name.
No, sorry, I should have spoken up.
All
I don't
right,
see any other
all
hands
set?
raised if you would like to move on, but yeah, just a quick answer to Julian's question, that the checklists were among some sample checklists were among the materials that Jennifer shared just this weekend, really. So yeah, that's, I think, what we need in order to be able to handle these things in a systematic way.
Right. But again, I don't think the DDA would approve that. That's a trustee level decision.
Yes, I think so.
So again,
Yeah, I meant as a township, we need that.
correct,
I would just add, I guess maybe I'm talking out of turn,
a little bit.
but use the best practices that are already there. That the idea is that we want to be the same
Right, so
as
we'll send that to all the
Chelsea and
trustees.
Dexter, and they're mostly the same. So it's not like like you want to copy them because we should all be the same so people can say, this is what, get them.
Process.
Like that.
Very good. All right. Any other questions from the Zoom residents? Rob? All right. Next, we didn't approve our minutes from the last meeting. Please take a look at the draft. And again, these are usually posted about 5 or 8 days ahead online on our DDA site, but take a quick look at them. Pretty short to the point. Anybody in favor of approving these? First, second, all those in favor of approval, say aye.
Aye.
Motion passes. Thank you. Spark, we just talked about. I really don't have anything specific, and we'll get into a little bit, but still kind of dealing with some neighbors and the signs along just the political signs of the yard signs. But most people have been good. I've gone into there and talked to them, and they understand they have to be on this side of the sidewalk. So I think there's always going to be an issue, but if we can get it cleaned up a little bit, I think it looks better, as long as you don't have 100 of them out there on the boulevard. I'm talking to them. The bus shelters, we'll talk about it later, but I'll talk about that. They should start construction this week. So finally, we're going to get those out and up. And I said, let's get them done before the snow flies. So I think this project's been 3 years. So a lot of us, we were on the board, but you weren't. We've been trying to get these done for 3 years. A lot of paperwork, but I think and I've gotten other people say, thank you for, putting these shelters up eventually. So I think the public and the residents will love it. That's about it. Will, you got anything to add?
Well, we already covered the very well. Thank you, Jennifer, the Industrial Development District IFT issue. The other thing I'm happy to report is that we've now completely demolished, not personally, the township, but our enforcement action resulted in the blighted building near Stabler and Jackson being completely demolished. So that site's finally clear. That took only, 3 decades.
Which building is that?
I'm not sure what was there last, but it's
Big gray building.
There's a for sale sign. It says
the one that had
Robinson.
Formaldehyde contamination.
Yes, I think that it is probably a brownfield site, but it's where the Scio drive-in
Right next to
theater used to
right next to
be
Print.
back there.
Yeah. Okay. Did Scio pay for the cleanup? Who paid for the cleanup? The owner?
The owner paid for the demolition. We worked together with the county building department to get the building condemned, and then worked with the owner to nudge that along until it actually got demolished.
Good. Excellent.
So if there's other buildings like that, now we know how to do it.
Good. We got the new landscape committee formed. Gus has sent me a couple pictures of some things he's trying to do. Him and Sandy are doing that. And so we'll just table that until next meeting. But again, we're looking at having some cleanup or some bushes taken out along the boulevard to make it more attractive and a little bit easier to maintain. So they should come up with some plans for the spring on that. And then the marketing committee, this is kind of new, and it's kind of what Spark's kind of talking about. We need to promote the area a little bit more. Jennifer, who's not here, is working with, I think, Gus on that as well. And they kind of sent me some things. Of course, we'll put together a budget for them and some planning, but I think it'll be through social media, through our website, just promoting the good things that are going on in Scio. So we'll keep that going as well, and we'll have reports every other month from them. definitely linked to Spark and some other entities there. New business. So we've got this liquor license that we talked about last meeting. And again, Sandy, our attorney, she talked to the other attorney on the project. And then we've also talked to the state of Michigan and the owner. And the state of Michigan was very friendly about what it is. It's not a big deal to do this. It's a Class C liquor license. It stays at the location. The owner cannot sell it. It just allows them to use beer and wine at the location. I guess Ann Arbor's issued over 40 of these downtown. So we can definitely issue it as an entity. The cost for them is only $600 to the state. You know, now whether we want to charge an extra fee for supplying it, they said we can do that. Obviously on the secondary market, these liquor licenses are very expensive, but again, this is not something that owner there can sell. They can't sell it.
Can be transferred?
Can't be transferred. It has to stay. Now the question is if he sells the business, does it stay at that location? Which I think that would be it. If it could be transferred to that, staying at that location, but that's it. And if you look in the minutes, behind the minutes and the documents, there's kind of the process for this Class C liquor license requirements, how to apply, initial fee, permits, fingerprints, and there's no liability for us. The state of Michigan would do all the background checks on the gentleman. And just talking to him again, he's the second owner of that. He's actually the professional at Radrick. And, you know, just wants to set this up a little bit more. He just bought it recently, so he's just trying to bring it up as far as popularity.
Can I?
Yep.
In? So
Sure.
I deal with someone who shares a parking lot with this golf emporium. And the manager at Site One doesn't have any qualms about it, but they recently pebble sealed or Jackson Plaza there, and they never restriped it. And both of these have a driveway that come off of Jackson Plaza right as there's a large sweeping curve. And it was brought up to me that it's more dangerous than it was because the cars without the yellow line to keep them in their lane tend to hug in tight on that big sweeping turn, and the cars that are coming at them from the opposite direction. And adding liquor to the equation perhaps does not make it better. So I was requesting.
But isn't that probably a road commission issue?
I was asked if there's a way that we can encourage the road commission.
And there's already a law. They're not supposed to drink and drive, like, you know, so you hope they follow the law there. And it's a golf place, you know, I think they're going to be, you know, it's not downtown Ann Arbor bar. So hopefully, I think these places will be pretty old as far as the individuals drinking and golfing there. Yeah.
Do you know, what does Ann Arbor charge for when they issue these?
I don't know. I checked that out.
So my only concern, I think I talked to you about it before, would be, do we have any additional enforcement that might be doesn't sound to me like there's any additional police required or issues.
Yeah, I mean, you know, you said enforcement too. It's like, is there going to be extra needs for this? I mean, right? Sessions opened up, and I don't think there's additional enforcement with them. And they're going to be 100 times more people probably than this place.
Liquor license like this, though. I mean,
no, but they have liquor, so
right. No, so I'm just curious as far as the can it be revoked for.
I would think anything can be revoked.
As far as transfer, in other words, it does, you know, if you say you can sell a business and the license transfers with it, then it is marketable. So it would be a new application if the business were sold. Those are my only questions. Otherwise, I'm totally in favor of this.
You know, I think too, we set precedent by doing this. The first liquor license I know the DDA has done. So I think once we do this, we're going to get requests for other ones. And I think it's no different than the planning commission. We might have to look at it. And some will be approved, some might be denied. You know, do we want to charge a certain extra fee? And I think we should. I think we should just, You know, because again, the value is extreme. We're way under market as well. But I think it might deter a little bit from other people just trying to get a $600 liquor license.
Just the internal administration.
Right.
Why don't we, I guess is there a way to approve it subject to checking to see what Ann Arbor charges for a fee and?
Again, regardless of what Ann Arbor charges, I don't know why.
Yeah, I don't think it's as much about the fee as.
So how are we gonna set a fee just out of thin air?
Well, I think it could be administrative, and maybe we want to talk to Doug about it. From the standpoint of how much township time does it take to issue a permit? Or do we just
The attorney, their attorney said maybe, you know, other DDAs, and because he's done with other DDAs, they've charged, you know, $1,000, $2,000 in fees to the township.
To the degree that there's time spent by Carlisle Wardman reviewing the application, absolutely, I think we should try and cover that cost to the township, but I don't know.
That's the only fee I can personally justify.
I know that for the Class C liquor licenses, there's a significant amount of time spent reviewing those. If it's comparable to that, maybe we could just base it on that experience.
That's what I'd like to do.
Okay.
There's other experiences and we can put in and, you know, make a motion to approve as is, you know.
We can make a motion to approve with the understanding that we will charge a
reasonable
fee based on
administration fees.
The actual administrative cost that's incurred by the township with the review.
So moved.
Second. All those approved, say aye.
Aye.
So your two names gotta go in this plot, for the motion, just to let you know. In case you got issues like that, state of Michigan. It does go on. It goes on this form that we'll send.
I got my prints.
But again, they were super nice. I don't see a problem with it. I mean, I agree that corner down there, if you know where it is, you go down Jackson Plaza and turn, it's just a bad, like the angle of that corner is bad. Now they paved it, so we'll talk to Washington Road and see if we get a strike. There's nothing on that at all.
You know, I've said before when we talked about pickleball is that Scio Township is got an entertainment component that, you know, unfortunately we don't have the theater anymore, but we are picking up things like this. And I think it's kind of cool. And maybe we'll get a bowling alley next. Who knows?
The Class C liquor license we issued was to the pickleball facility, which is a growing entertainment venue.
Hey, did you charge a fee for that? Or?
I don't know that we did, but I think it's actually a good point because there certainly was time spent by Carlisle Wardman reviewing the application.
Just have Doug charge them, not the DDA.
Well, we do get an invoice for that, so there is actually, we can point to that as a basis for charging.
pass through.
Yeah.
Good. Well, again, talking to the owner, I think it's gonna be a good situation, understands risks and responsibility, so I think we'll have a good owner that'll appreciate it and take care of it, so that's what we want at Scio. Good, thank you. Redevelopment projects, Will kind of talked about this. And again, I haven't forwarded, but I had commercial real estate gentleman send me, and I'll forward it to you, some open vacant properties along the DDA that I don't know if we want to market, available, look at, you know, maybe we need to get more involved in that, but I think these brownfield cleanups have been excellent. I think there's a little bit of more money we can get from the state. So if we can, you know, get a couple of those grants, more grants to help clean up the area, I think with Sparks help too, I think that would be good. So that's kind of what I put that on there, just Will already talked about, but that's why I put that on there. As far as something, redevelopment projects. I don't think there's another one. We've got.
Is there a consultant like trying to recruit people that might be interested in that? And we have a consultant that.
Well, again,
is working on the brownfield consultant.
Yeah, I don't know if that's exactly like, I think the developers contact her once they see that there might be a brownfield need.
See, because I mean, my impression is because she gets a fee for doing it, that there's a benefit to her to recruit people interested in doing it, which makes it mutually beneficial for us. We don't have a staff person that's out there, they're pursuing that maybe that's a reach out that we can do to see if you know what parcels can be tagged and pursued.
They said most of the time it's when the business or the owners are selling it, you know, it's a transaction. So, you know, do we become aggressive and send out letters, say, hey, do you need to clean up you see your project probably needs a brownfield cleanup, but I don't think they're gonna be very receptive until they want to market it.
Yeah, we do have I can share this with you. We have a database that we try to keep up of the vacant parcels over an acre, but yeah, we only do the ones that are on the market. But if they go off the market, we kind of have some historical stuff. Because I mean, if people really want to be here, they'll you know, usually get it off the market, because sometimes when it's on the market, it's too much money. But so you know, we are following that there is a lot more interest from the state of Michigan to help fund that. So if there are key parcels in your community that you are interested in redeveloping and promoting, Spark would be happy to work with you. And depending on the parcel, could go get a grant from the state of Michigan.
For instance, the parcel that was just condemned that's for sale.
Right.
Exactly.
And one thing that I learned is that the county, there's grant money for brownfield redevelopment that is available, and I think it's more available when there's a buyer for a brownfield site. This came up in the context of this same property out near Stabler and Jackson. And actually, there are some township-owned parcels along the Jackson Road corridor that could be part of this equation too. There's one on that actual corner of Stabler and Jackson, I learned. And there's some other little parcels. I think these resulted from the Jackson Boulevard construction when the county used eminent domain or whatever they used back then to secure the land that was needed in order to expand the road. There were these little pieces that were kind of left over, and I think what has happened is to turn them over to the township, and in some cases it's not clear that they completed that turnover. They're still listed as belonging to the road.
DDA and then we send them back to the Scio.
No, well, what happened is the road commission, when they were securing the easements for the boulevard, some of the businesses, we had to do a total take. So technically the road commission owned them, but then when they sold them, that's where we got the boulevard maintenance money. But some of them didn't sell, and I think that's what Will's referring to, that there's still some out there
There's two, aren't there?
that's available.
I don't know how many there are.
I know there's the one on the corner of Stabler and
No,
Jackson.
we sold the one, but that was by our nets, right?
I don't,
By Park.
well, we may have sold part of it, but there's still a strip of land near the former Arnett site that's now Cosmetology,
Right.
that is still owned either by the road commission or by the township. I discovered because there was a complaint about maintenance. It was growing over the sidewalk, and when we tried to figure out who was responsible, it turned out it was either the road commissioner or us, depending on who you listened to. So we sent out the utility department to clear it, but
A lot of frontage.
How much does an environmental test cost? The soil
Depends on what you, phase one, and depends on what you're looking for, and drilling or, right?
Yeah, so you're gonna have a phase one. If they find something, you're going to a phase two. So phase one is just paperwork. And then phase two is actually sampling. Phase two could be all across the board, and phase one is gonna depend, but a few grand.
Using sonar, right? I mean, they're doing, what are they using there?
Sure. What if we got a grant for a couple grand from the state to test those properties that we own that are vacant, and then we'd say, are you environmentally tested?
So
on the market.
You could certainly do that. I mean, I think one of the things that would be, before you're actually doing that, is just to have Jennifer, you could comment on this as well, but to have a plan so that a prospective buyer or developer would come in and know that the township knows how to work through a brownfield issue, that the township knows how to work through an IFT, that the township knows how to coordinate things with the road commission, so that you're not doing it a la carte as a developer. You've got everything in one place, and you know that they're friendly to development, that's qualified in the way that they want it to be, but that they want that type of development and they facilitate it. I think that'd be very helpful. Without necessarily doing the actual testing.
Yeah, just having an inventory, we can give you what we have, share with you and work with you to, prioritize, like, these would be our priority properties that we would like to see developed, and then think of ways where we, if the state came out and said, hey, we have a grant for this, then you would be up on the list because we have the information that we need. We can definitely help with that.
Yeah, a little proactive. Good. Anything else? Redevelopment?
So maybe we want to lean on selling that parcel on the corner of Stabler and Jackson.
I mean, why are we gonna force sale sign?
Well, because our realtor had a for sale sign on it, probably didn't.
So we tried.
Probably
I
didn't
don't
sign
know.
a sales agreement or a listing agreement, I don't know. But I think Charlie Con.
Oh, okay.
But it's a little less than an acre, it has some variances on it. I don't know if it's leaching from all the car places that have been there over the years. But, I've always looked at it as a drive-through facility because of the turnarounds and stuff on Jackson's on the go-home side for a lot of people.
So it's on the west side of Stabler.
Yeah, it's west.
It's kind of surrounded by the moving company and
It's west and
a
north of
car repair place. And then there's another car repair place sort of behind that site.
It's small.
It's it's just the corner. It's not the site where the building was torn down. That is much larger site. And it sort of wraps around all of what I just
I'm
described.
trying to figure out what kind of a drive-through would fit there, but dry cleaners aren't history.
Right.
But I mean, it'd be a great site for something like that in the old days, but don't know what else it could be, but it's kind of the wrong side for coffee. Anyway. We could use it in our maintenance fund.
But we should put together a process for all these types of grants and something on our site that people can see, that we're educated on it. It's good. All right, anything else? Good. C, under new business, potential new bylaws and potential separate insurance policies. So this all came up for a couple things came up. Clerk was looking through our needs and said we didn't have insurance here for the DDA, which again, I think we're, a volunteer committee mostly, all of us are, and my impression was that all our decisions go to the trustees and they approve them. So we were covered under the trustees policy. And we've done that all this time. We built the boulevard with that without our insurance policies, and even the bus shelters, AATA is taking them over. They hope the local businesses help keep it clean and some maintenance, but they will take responsibility for them. So they're gonna take those. But there's still some questions on whether we need our own insurance policy, which our attorney thinks we do, which if they do, that's fine. And then really whether we want to be totally separate like Ann Arbor's DDA was. We thought we had our own TIN number, EIN number, tax identification number. The bonds were issued with Scio's TIN number, not DDA's. Sandy found one document that showed that there was a TIN number. I've talked to the state of Michigan several times and they don't have one for us separate.
So it's to insure us.
Yes.
So if we became employees, we would be covered.
There is a bond insurance that the DDA pays for. It's $125
Well,
that secures the board.
Yeah,
insurance.
Yeah, we have that in case we're
So you're talking about-
liability against us personally, but that's it. And then we have a bond that we pay to protect the bonds that we issued.
through the.
So if we were separate, would we have the ability to issue bonds? Because that's gotta be Scio credit anyway. So I can't imagine that that the DDA credit would be sufficient. So I don't know why we would want to be
And
separate.
again, I've talked to, we're trying to get some numbers on insurance policies and what it costs, and the current company that insures Scio said, no, we don't need our own policy because Will's on our board here. And then again, we're volunteers and the trustees approve it. So, we're getting some different opinions of what we need and why we need it. And you're right, if we did go separate totally, our credit would be worth, we don't have any assets.
So what's the concept that if you're doing it as a citizen, as a volunteer, you may be covered under your homeowners, but that'd be for an insurance agent to determine. Other than that's your umbrella, if you got an umbrella.
Right, and the errors and omissions would cover us for that. We're covered there, but I think it was liability on the bus shelters if there's an issue. And again, we did that boulevard and we didn't do it, we don't have any separate policies for that. And then we turned that over, I don't even know who technically owns that, if that's Washtenaw County. I know it's on our.
It was built by the road commission, it wasn't built by us.
Right, so they're liable for that.
Bob, have you signed contracts?
I haven't signed any, I signed like checks and whatever Sandy lets me sign, but.
So since
No
we
contracts.
really don't hold the.
No, I would not, no, we don't sign those contracts.
So what
the
insurance
liability?
is it that they're saying we potentially need? Is it liability or is it casualty?
Casualty.
I think the concern arose in part with a review of insurance generally for the township. And then there was this sort of question that came up about the Downtown Development Authority. And then the question came up specifically with regard to the bus shelters, because the DDA is creating these physical spaces that if someone were to fall while waiting for a bus at a bus shelter, would there be protection for the DDA in that instance? And
We don't
the
own the
message
property,
from
we don't own the property they're on.
well, the message from the insurance company, I don't know if you saw this, an email that just arrived just before our meeting, was that they really need bylaws in order to proceed.
Who's the attorney?
The silent attorney. Thing. So again, in the notes, I put a draft of potential bylaws. And again, we built the boulevard without the bylaws. We've used the what do you call it? The ordinance as our kind of our guidelines for the DDA and how we work. With that said, I recognize that, we wear seatbelts in cars now. So there is a need maybe to update the laws and regulations of the DDA. And I'm not opposed to bylaws. Other nonprofits though I've been on, they change their bylaws every week to satisfy what they want to do. But again, it does create some more structure for us as a government entity. So there's a draft in there. We don't have to approve it today. If you haven't looked at it, we'll look at it and maybe look at next meeting to approve it. There was a push to get the insurance done before the bus shelters are up, but again, AATA said they will take responsibility for all their shelters.
Well, I think want some help. The concern was, regardless of what AATA says, that the bus shelters are sort of on land that is in Scio Township and that they have been erected by the DDA. So I would lean towards approving these and then modifying them if we determine later that they need
So to get some bylaws in place.
Get some bylaws in place so that they
get an insurance policy like the attorney wants us to do. I think I don't think it makes sense for us to go totally separate from Scio for the creditworthiness. We could, and then we can approve all our own.
Well, that seems like a separate question, unless I missed something in the bylaws.
Well, the policy I think would be redundant, but if right.
It's not gonna cost that much to get insurance.
Well, why don't you take a, have you already seen the bylaws, the draft?
To me, this raises more questions than it answers.
So with D&O.
And without knowing what kind of insurance we're lacking, if we're lacking it, I mean, it's a little bit alarming to me that perhaps the board is exposed without some sort of liability protection from the township. That's just shocking. And then to fix it with a bylaw amendment that we really haven't had a chance to debate or talk about. And it seems to me like the township needs to say, yes, you're covered. Yes, the liability issues and the bus shelters are covered. And if we need to do something additionally or change it, that's fine. But see, again, this just raises more questions for me than it answers.
My gut feeling is we're covered, but the township just wants us to pay for it.
Well, I
That's
think,
my gut feeling.
and then the insurance company said we're covered. We got an email from the.
It's one more,
Will's on
it's
our
one more
board.
expense the township wants to slide over to DDA, so.
If that's the case, then
Fine.
right. I mean, that's a
I'm
valid
I'm
request,
wondering,
right?
we buy D&O insurance for the Downtown Development Authority, so.
It's not just E&O though, it's liability insurance. For the
I think
bus
you're saying
shelters.
directors and
Again, I think we
officers,
have
right?
E&O through.
Well, I don't need liability insurance if I have D&O, because I'm off the hook and the township will get hammered,
Right.
you know, so.
I think what the message from the insurance company was that without bylaws, they are having a difficult time getting a quote for insurance. And so if we have the bylaws, then they can get the quote for the insurance and
Are these the bylaws that are in place or are these new ones?
I think
That's a
these-
draft that I did.
This is a draft that was prepared because when we looked to see if the DDA had bylaws, we could find none. And I thought maybe the ordinance would suffice, but evidently not, in terms of getting a quote.
Did we copy the bylaws from another DDA?
Yes, we did. It could be amended. And again, our attorney's read, the insurance companies, again, the attorney says we should do this. We should buy insurance for the DDA, so. I haven't got a proposal yet. They want the bylaws first. I talked to 2 different insurance companies.
To me, bylaws usually have an article that talks about what you have to do to change the bylaws. It deals with notice, et cetera.
Okay, there's one on the final page, amending bylaws. Article 8.
So I don't have a full document.
So be altered or amended or repealed by the first vote of the DDA board. One thing I saw in there was a little different. I think the timing, Sandy, for our budget is right. That's the only thing I saw.
Yeah,
We
that's,
might have to change.
that has to change, because that's only 5
We're
months.
September to September.
No, we're April 1st to March 31st. So the DDA,
That's the only thing I didn't.
the DDA approves their budget request at their meeting in March to send off to the township board for adoption.
So we would
at the
change
end of
those
March.
dates for the budget.
So is it possible that we can study this until the next meeting, and then in the interim, you can get quotes saying that these are a draft of our bylaws that are still being studied. You can move forward with getting some quotes on the insurance numbers. And we can come back in 2 months and have a full arsenal of information. Does that seem
Should
reasonable?
we just have a special meeting? We can't do Zoom meetings, can we?
No, we can do Zoom. We can have a special meeting now.
Do a special meeting
Just need half of us, 50%.
just to do this?
Yeah. It did kind of come on all of a sudden.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Do that what, in December?
Yeah, let's,
So
I
maybe,
mean, we'll send, can we send a draft of bylaws to the insurance companies and?
well, let's,
Yeah, I think so.
why don't we, so we're gonna change that date for the budget, right? Are there any other changes to this draft that people see just looking at it that are necessary?
I mean, I just saw it for the first time, I think, on Thursday, so I can't say with certainty that I do or I don't.
Right. Well, why don't we see what happens? We'll send this as the draft that's under consideration by the
I
DDA.
mean, we're just asking the insurance company for proposals, we're not signing it, so I just.
Yeah, they should be able to bid, they should give a proposal on this.
Yeah, okay, so we'll send this as a draft to the insurance company, see what they say. If they say, oh no, we can't give you a quote until you actually adopt them, then we'll know. And we'll have more information.
Well, they give us a quote pending the adoption.
Well, it would be nice to have a folder for the opinion letter from Scio's insurance company as to what exactly is currently covered for the DDA under the Scio policy. Is it liability? Is it indemnity? Is it?
The insurance company, yeah, they will before our attorney would.
Insurance is such a slippery slope. It's nice to get, this year, and then you might put a note that says we want to revise that letter from the township's insurance if the insurance policy or company carrier changes.
So,
Okay, so we'll forward a draft to the insurance company, that's all we're agreeing on, with the dates change of the budget.
I'd make it March 15th,
So
because
April,
the DDA meets the second.
April 1st,
Well, the board has.
15th, 15th.
You have to, it has to be adopted by the township board before April 1st, or you go into shutdown. So the DDA would, since their meeting is the second Monday of the month, if you make it, the DDA transmits it to the township board by March 15th. That's plenty of time, because the township board will draft it at their second meeting in March.
Right, because we need approval from the trustees for our budget.
Right.
We're not separate.
The only two things you need approval from the township board is budgets and bonds.
Right.
Everything else you can enter into any contract you want, and they have no say.
And the planning commission, you got your own insurance policy?
That I do not know.
No.
You better look.
is there anything we have to cover? Because I'm gonna have to excuse myself. So is there anything that we have to
Hang
cover?
on, you can't leave because we got our form yet. Let's just look.
You gotta
Anything else?
approve the bills.
So we'll do that. We got the bills to pay. Sparks bill wasn't in there, but it's another $505,000 that we've done every year since I've been on the board, which is probably 15 years.
We approved that officially?
Not yet, you gotta
You gotta approve it right
bills.
Okay, we'll approve that. Okay.
Part of the bills. Any other questions on the bills?
So as far as the bills go, I added in Spark. So the regular bills is $14,392.36. The bond payment was $869,150, and then we have the $55,921 for the brownfield. And we've received that money, so that's ready to go back out the door.
All stuff we've agreed to pay.
And again, we'll finalize the bus shelters. There'll be some fees to pay to the construction of it.
Supposedly construction starts tomorrow.
Yeah, starts tomorrow. And then, I'll tally up what it costs per bus shelter, but I think it's gonna be about 20,000 when it's all said and done. Between buying the shelters and the construction. There's 5 of them.
And who is going to do the maintenance of pickup and snow shoveling? We talked about
AATA.
AATA, but how about vandalism and gang marking?
And AT is responsible for the maintenance and
Donating them, right?
yeah, we're donating to them. They asked for if local business can help maintain them as well, so, but they won't be liable for that. AT, they're taking. All right.
So are we reaching out to the local businesses
Yeah.
nearby?
We gotta approve this motion, guys.
What?
We gotta approve the motion for the bills.
Yes.
Yeah,
You gotta-
first,
You have to
I move
individually.
we pay the bills as presented.
second, all those in favor say aye.
Nope.
No, we have to have a roll call.
Money.
Roll call, Jay.
Yes.
Jeff.
Yes.
Linda.
Yes.
Will.
Yes.
Bob. Yes. Motion passes.
Okay, the only other thing that I have is we have to do the budget. So at the January meeting, if there's any projects that you feel that you would like to propose to come forward for the next fiscal year, let's get them on the list, because
Okay. Because I want a budget for the landscape and the marketing, so I'll do that.
Right.
So you'll have that.
Any projects the DDA wants to take on for next
All right.
year?
And we're gonna look, we might have to do a special meeting for the bylaws and the changes, but we will answer those questions. And we are getting different opinions, so it's not just, that's why it's a little difficult.
And Linda's suggestion too, what the attorney said and what we're, how we're covered now would be useful as well.
Fair. I get that. All right. With that said, is there a motion to adjourn?
We're staying.
Second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Thanks, guys.
Thank you. Thank you.
Sandra had her hand up. I don't know, talk with her.
Sandra, you there?
Sandra.
I'm here.
You want to add anything?
I just wanted to clarify something really quick. I'll be very fast. So there's two different licenses for the liquor license. There's the Class C, which is more traditional, and it's less restrictive. And that's what the golf center is going for. It, that's what they would like, but there's only so many available. So, and it seems like they're all earmarked at this point. So if they're not able to get that through Ann Arbor, then they want to get the redevelopment license, which they also qualify for. They fulfill all the criteria. So I think we have to be very specific about the meeting minutes and saying that we recommend, if not C, then the redevelopment as well. You can also put restrictions in the recommendation to the city if you wanted to Ann Arbor, if you wanted to. There's really no traditional fee that Ann Arbor charges in addition, just things that I learned from talking with Seth. Seth also wanted me to give his phone number to anybody who had any questions. Seth Tompkins, 248-320-9972. So I think that's important to note that we have to, when we're filling out when we're making our recommendation, that we specify that we approved Class C and the redevelopment.
So Class C or a redevelopment zone.
Wait a second. We approved a DDA liquor license application. We didn't approve a Class C because that has to go through the township board.
They both have to they'll both have to go before Ann Arbor. The redevelopment liquor license will as well.
But I was under the impression, same as well, that it was the DDA one, not the Class C. Because the Class C is restricted in terms of numbers that are available for a region and things like that. This was the DDA one, the same one that Ann Arbor has issued 40 of them or something, not the Class
According
C.
to the state of Michigan, they said the DDA can sign off on it.
Okay, well, that's just what Seth told me to convey that.
I called the state of Michigan.
But to be clear, so we're not doing a Class C, we're doing.
No.
What we approved was a different kind of liquor license application than a Class C. Right. Regardless of whatever the situation is with the Class C liquor licenses, we as a board, we approved the class, whatever class it is. DDA license.
Yeah. Redevelopment.
Yeah.
That's it.
Oh, thank you.
Thank you.
Sorry,
I'll put that in
I
your
didn't see
notes.
your
No,
answer.
it's good. All right.
That was Cassandra.
Sandra. She's sick.
She's with Fink's office?
Board member, but
No,
she
that's
was
Sandra.
unable to be
Sandy.
Oh, okay.
Sandy.
Okay,
She's sick. Couldn't make it.
got it.
All right, any other questions? I'll put that in the minutes and forward this on. Get that process started.
Great.
All right.
Great, I'm gonna end
All right.
now.
Thank you, guys. Thanks for coming. Ryan, you're